everybody, my name's Daniel. Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video I wanted to talk about our spiritual guides and helpers. Now there's a lot of information online available. I'm sure much of it may contradict with the kind of things that I'm going to say today, but that kind of leads nicely into the disclaimer that I like to put in my videos, which is literally everything that I share. It's just my perspective, it's just what I've come to learn, what I've come to know, and it is basically just my truth. If it resonates with you, then that's fantastic. If it doesn't, again, it's fantastic and it's awesome. It's all love either way. I encourage you to align with the information that does resonate with you. So with that being said, let's talk about our spiritual guides and helpers. Now before we get into the meat, I just want to give a little bit of a backdrop again with my idea as to how this whole incarnation system works. Now it's a question of identification, okay? We are actually the energy, the sentience inside the body, and it's only a small aspect of our overall sentience which is basically filtered down through the frequencies to put into the physical body, which allows it to animate in the way that it does. I mean, we've seen dead bodies in the animal world at least, and you can just tell that the energy is not there, it's not present. Now outside of the physical form, we are what's commonly referred to as a big ball of sentience or energy. And what happens is we individually release an aspect of that energy, and as I said, filtered down through the frequencies and is embedded and connected into the physical form. And so what you see here is Dan, the person that I'm playing in this lifetime, but it's the consciousness behind this personality, which is ultimately what I am and ultimately what you are as well. Now when we do that, it may seem like we're here by ourselves outside of family and friends and all the rest of it, but we actually have a huge team of spiritual I'm going to say guides and helpers, because I'll get to that. We have a huge team of spiritual helpers behind the scenes, and so we're never really alone. This isn't even including things like archangels and other sympathetic souls who are there around to assist us. We have basically a team who are allocated to us individually, and we all have this team. Now the setup is this: like, how many guides and helpers do we have? The simple answer to the first question is how many guides do we have is one. As far as I understand, as far as I know, we all have one main guide, okay? And we can often spend many lifetimes incarnating with that entity, that aspect, that energy behaving as our guide. The image I used to get when I first come across the information is it's almost like an office setup where you've got a manager and then you've got everybody else within that department all working on their keyboards, you know, making sure, you know, that you're doing what you need to be doing, or helping you in the myriad of ways that they do. Now what normally happens is that you would work with a specific guide for multiple lifetimes. Okay, you would stick with that guide, and that guide would take you so far through the evolutionary ladder, take you as far as you can go, and then once that guide has taken you as far as it can, it pops out and another guide comes in order to take you further up the evolutionary ladder. But is it possible to have more than one guide in any lifetime? It is possible, but it's under quite specific circumstances. Like if there's something very important happening, then there may be a need for more than one guide to be present. There's situations and circumstances which see more than one soul using a physical vessel. Sometimes there is, you know, we can have some souls who are too eager to wait for the opportunity to be incarnate, and so what we find is that there can be setups where there is one dominant soul within a physical vessel, i.e. a human body, and the other more passive souls also occupy that body. But what happens is the sentience and consciousness connected to the dominant soul would step aside, and the other souls would be able to step into the light, so to speak, in order to experience whatever's taking place in that event space or place that physical vessel finds itself. This may seem a little bit crazy whilst I'm saying it, but yeah, stay with me, right? What we see sometimes when this setup doesn't work quite well and things go a little bit haywire is situations and circumstances surrounding things like schizophrenia. There's some fascinating cases out there where a person, a body, would have a personality, and that personality would be blind or wouldn't have the best vision, but when the aspect or the soul related to that personality steps aside and another aspect comes in, and therefore this whole new personality, what comes with it is perfect vision. It's insane to think about, but it kind of backs up the idea that I'm talking about here, where multiple souls can actually share a body. Now in that case, each aspect or each soul would have their own individual guidance, so therefore the physical body or the vessel, the person's brackets S, would have more than one guide associated with it. But generally speaking, we all have one main guide and a group of helpers. Now, what's the role of a spiritual guide and or helpers? Now, the spirit guide's main job is to assist us in being in the right place at the right time, having the right conversation with the right people about the right things, those kind of things. They really are responsible for the kind of synchronicities that we experience on a day-to-day basis. If you're lucky, of course, if you're in tune, you're aligned, these synchronicities would be very prevalent. They're responsible for bringing things to our attention. Like, for example, you could be in a supermarket, a grocery store or whatever, waiting in line, and there'll be a line of magazines on the left or something, and something about one of those magazines will stand out. It'll be brighter than the others, and it would get your attention. Now, they very rarely, yeah, and quite annoyingly, they won't say things like, "Dan, you need to look at that and pay attention to that, because if you do that, things are going to be hella good for you." Instead, what they'll do, it will just flash out and it will stand out, and it requires us to consciously pay attention to it and to question what it is and why it's standing out in that way. If you can't understand exactly what it is in that moment in time, it's fine, because the fact that you picked up at all is very encouraging. It's very encouraging. Now, communication with your guides and helpers can be improved, and it's not as difficult as you might think. Being down here in the third dimension is the energy is very dense, obviously, because we've got physical things, and when things are physical, they carry a lot of density to them. Now, it becomes very difficult for any sort of signals to make their way down into the third dimension because of how dense things are. Imagine trying to imagine you're underwater, someone's 10 meters underwater, and you're on the surface of the water, and you trying to shout down a message to them. It's very difficult for that sound to break through the barrier of the water and to carry all the way down. Now, water is a fantastic conductor of sound, so it kind of doesn't fully explain what I'm trying to say, but the point is that it's difficult for certain communications to be made when you're in such a dense position. In order to help that communication, we have the ability to project our consciousness upwards. Now, this is something that's done in meditation. When you're in a meditative state and space, you're basically clearing out all the chitter chatter of the ego mind, the monkey mind, the one that just doesn't know how to stop, and instead you're creating this space for these other messages to come through. But again, I go back to my origin, to one of my points I made, is that it's not like, it's very rarely they will come through and just be like, "Oh gosh, thank God that you've cleared out all that chitter chat, Dan. Now I can talk to you directly." You know what I mean? And just give you the straight up and down. You see when you was walking down the road the other day, they won't say it like that. What they would do instead is give you some sort of symbolic communication. Now, everybody has their own language. Okay, everybody has their own spiritual language, and again, this is a video. This is something that I was going to do another video about, but we're just touching it quickly. Everybody has their own spiritual language. Some people are clairvoyant, they see. Some people are clairsentient, they just know. Some people are clairvoyant, they get these certain smells. Some people are all of these things, and others. Personally, I'm clairvoyant and clairsentient. Some things I just know, but I'm very visual. And my guides and helpers and life itself knows how to get my attention through images. Now, if you've worked with me, you've heard my disclaimer that I get I get some weird images. Like, my guides and helpers have no filter. Honestly, they come through with these crazy images, and I'll pick them up and I'll share them. But it's not until I go into those images and I begin describing what those images suggest to me. After I've done that and I couple it with the feeling that I'm getting whilst looking at them and describing them, that we find the meaning, and we end up with something that is more often than not useful for what's been trying to be communicated. And as I said, everybody has their own language. If you're not quite sure what your language is, it just means that you haven't taken the time to properly immerse yourself into that world. Now, one of the examples I give a lot of my clients is this. Now, most people that I know, being from the UK, don't speak Japanese, and so my example is normally, do you speak Japanese? 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 100, the answer is no. And so I say, well, picture yourself, imagine right now we just go and we're in Japan. Okay, if we're in Japan, we'll look around, we won't know what people are talking about, we won't understand what's written on the signs, we won't understand any of the communications outside body language. Okay, but once you spend a little bit of time in Japan, once you spend a week in Japan, depending on your proficiency at languages, you should be able to say the important things like yes and no, food, water, toilet. These kind of things will be the parts of the language that you pick up. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that oftentimes when it comes to things like spiritual language, you need to immerse yourself within its culture. You need to put yourself in a position where it will try to speak to you, and you need to really focus your attention and your awareness on the kinds of communications that are actually coming through to you in order for you to pick up and learn your own spiritual language. And again, this is helpful because when it comes to your guides and helpers, they speak to you in that way. There seems to, like I said, there's this veil between that world and our world, which stops free-flowing communication happening like it is now between yourselves and I through the screen. And so if you really wanted to get into any sort of sustained dialogue with your guides and helpers, I would suggest immersing yourself in your language. First, pick up what your language is. As I said, some people are very auditory, some people can see things, some people smell things, some people just know things, some people feel things, some people, all of these things mixed in together. So the first thing that you want to do is to get in touch with what aspects of your language that they use to communicate with you. Guides and helpers will often use those particular ways to communicate to you, and not just that, guides and helpers are friends on that side as well. So never underestimate the ability of life to get creative on you. If they really need to get a message through to you, trust me, they'll do it. They might not do it directly to you, but they will do it through others as well. Like, your higher self could communicate with another person's higher self. What's her face is down the road who just gets on your nerves. Like, they will conspire in order for one or both of you to behave in certain ways in order to bring one or both of you a specific message. Okay, it's just how they work up there. There are no rules like when it comes to them trying to get information through to us. Like, and I think we all know what I'm actually talking about. And so and it really is important to actively, consciously ask them for help, because we live in a setup and a system that is literally free will. It's free will trumps everything here, and using your free will to give them permission to assist and to help is huge, because they need it. They absolutely need it. It's like this unwritten law that they require our permission slip to allow them to assist and to tap in. And so by opening up the channels of dialogue and communication, at least reaching out to that, we are reaffirming that energetic connection. We are reaffirming the choice and we are aligning with the energies that are constantly on offer for us, the positive energies that are constantly on offer for us from them. Now, this isn't even, we're not even restricted at the help of guides and helpers. They're just there for you all the time. We can extend it to things like archangels. We can extend it to things like ancestors. We can extend it to things like any other positively oriented energy that wishes to assist us in any given moment. And I encourage that. As I said, like, we need that kind of help right now. We all need it. And I think if we opened up, if more of us opened up to that idea, more of us opened up to that reality, because it absolutely is a reality, we'd see things change for the better much quicker than we have been. Even though things are changing hella quick, they might seem like they're negative on the surface right now, but yeah, there's a lot happening which is just not as it seems. Okay, just things aren't as they seem. Things are heading in a certain direction, and it will become clear in time. But to keep on track with this video, know that you've got a main guide always there for you. Know that you've got a team of helpers. I'm talking anything from 10 to 40 to 50 helpers, there for you. Now, they're not always working for you all at the same time, but they are there and they are ready and poised for you to call upon them at any given moment. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to know that your guide is with you right now. They probably played a part. They probably played a part in you coming to this video today and watching it. Okay, so on behalf of your guide, on behalf of my guides, and on behalf of all these helpers, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it helped in some way. If there was some information that you felt like I've missed and wanted me to go a little bit more into, feel free to put that down in the comments.